Now we're going to take a look at where PE comes from and what PE might tell you. So what we have is P is equal to the price. We have one price of 210 and another price of 1.1. Now capital E stands for earnings. I have to learn how to spell, don't I? Earnings. And this is done on a per share basis. Relatively easy to get. This is just the profits divided by the number of shares. So in the first case, we had profits of 10 divided by the number of shares, or 100, and that equals 0.1. So 10 cents a share, and that's the same with the other firm. Remember, the growth was making the difference. So earnings per share for this firm are also 0.1. So we have earnings per share in both cases of 10%. We have different prices which are driven by the growth. Now, one of the things to think about with PE, or price earnings ratios, is what does that tell us? Well, it's similar conceptually to putting money into a bank. So you buy a share of stock, you spend some money, and at some point in the future you receive dividends or you might sell it. So price earnings ratios become rather important. Now remember how we got the value of the firm. The value of the firm, V, was equal profits times 1 plus the interest rate over 1 minus I minus the growth rate, I minus G. Make a little more plus there. And the price was equal to the value of the firm divided by the number of shares. The earnings per firm is equal to the profits divided by the number of shares. If we put these two together, the PE, and we divided them, so price earnings ratio, this is just equal to value divided by the number of shares over the profits divided by the number of shares, and that will cancel out to be the value over the profits. But if you look back up here, you'll see that the profits are in the value, so that the PE, and this is idealistic, is 1 plus the interest rate over I minus G. That's what the price earnings ratio is telling you something about. It's the interest rate and the growth rate. Why would we be interested in the price earnings ratio? Well, it's a fairly simple operation. Price is what you paid, earnings is what you received. So if you think about, well, I put some money in the bank, price equals money in the bank, and earnings is equal to the interest received. If you put, say, $200 in, and that therefore is your price, and your earnings were, say, $20, then your PE is equal to 200 over 20, or 10. What's interesting about that is if you inverted it, E over P is equal to 1 over 10, which equals 10%. So when you're looking at a PE, price earnings ratio, if you inverted it, you'd get the implied rate of return on your investment. So PE is price earnings ratio. Invert it, E over P will get you the earnings per share at that price. So here's something to keep in mind. Let's see. We had in one case, firm 1, we had a price equal to 2.2, and an earnings equal to 0.1. So the PE was equal to 2.2 over 0.1, or 22. The second firm, without growth, firm 2, had a price equal to 1.1 and an earnings per share equal to 0.1, or a PE equal to 1.1 over 0.1, which equals 11. So what we have is a high PE and a low PE. So invert them. Find out what a 22 PE implies. E over P equals 1 over 22, as opposed to E over P, which equals 1 over 11. This is getting around, let's see, 1/20th. This is about 5%. And this is about 10%. Not equal to, but you can use a calculator and get it. So the earnings per share, E over P, rate of return, if you will, is higher for the lower PE firm and lower for the high PE firm. That's one of the reasons you look for high and low PEs. If you have a very high PE, say 50, then what you're looking at is a 2% return on your investment, absent growth. Not a good investment for this year. A low PE, such in this case as 11, implies a much higher annual return, at least for this year. So that's how we can use PE. That's the role of convergence in valuing the firm and the role of present value.